could that be? Oh boy, I hope it's something good. Bunny Maloney, huh? Also, who the fuck found my address? I'm calling the cops! Well, if I'm getting stalked, I might as well see what they sent me before they start taking pictures of me in my kitchen eating my favorite food, bread sandwich. There's only one thing to do now. Well, here we go. What the fuck was that? One of my favorite depression symptoms is staying up late at night looking at various wikis, websites, YouTube, or whatever, and looking for weird shows, games, and the sorts. But by far, one of the most notable things I've found is a little show titled Bunny Maloney. Bunny Maloney is a French TV show created by Studio Tanuki, who were an independent Flash game developer. Looking into it, they made stuff like Minami Hamazaki Dating Sim way before working on any television series. However, Bunny Maloney is probably their most notable work. Originally starting as a pilot in the early 2000s, available on the Studio Tanuki website, by 2007 the company Moonscoop ended up picking up the series, and one full season was produced in France, with an English dub being produced, I think, in the UK. It's hard to find some of the origins of this show because it's lost media. Somebody get fucking Blame It On George to talk about this shit so we can get a horror video about fucking horny pink rabbits. Yes, while having at least half of the show found, the other half has unfortunately become lost, and very rarely has there been any finds for it. Probably because like 3 people know about this show. I, however, love lost media. While I think some of the culture around it is kind of stupid, like, geez guys, you're talking about the fucking backyardigans, this isn't a crime scene expose, the idea of lost media has always been fascinating to me, leading to me starting my own searches, and then subsequently not finding anything and giving up after 2 days. But we have this weird, obscure, semi-lost media cartoon. Of course I got obsessed and watched the show in one sitting. And I actually have some stuff to say about it, so please relax, grab a chair, and enjoy me ranting about a stupid cartoon from the 2000s nobody cares about. Now the first thing I said to myself when I saw this show was, oh my god, this looks incredible. And yeah, it looks incredible. Great writing, Daegon. I already love this whole Y2K art style, but the animation is so fluid, the poses are snappy and fast-paced without feeling overwhelming, the background designs too are so full of life and personality, they make this world feel super full and unique with all these different set pieces. I can't imagine this was cheap to produce because it looks so good. Sure, sometimes it can feel a little bit rough around the edges, but just the stylization more than makes up for it. The simple yet snappy movements also allow for great physical comedy, but I'll talk about the comedy later. So Bunny Maloney is a show about Bunny and Candy, partners who deal with their relationship, their friendships, and more while battling the evil Professor the Billow Man, who wants to cuck Bunny. This is not a joke. That's the plot. This is actually a pretty decent setup for plots. It allows having the flashy, action-oriented scene for kids to latch onto while allowing the dialogue to stand out to adults, dealing with problems they would find more relatable. Having that balance is something important, and if executed right, allows for a show that everyone can enjoy. A show that comes to my mind is Regular Show, which can have absurd action scenes that kids find enthralling while having talking scenes and jokes that adults will find super funny. It's a very good balance to have, however, big focus on the word balance, because that's where I think Bunny Maloney falls flat, at least in this aspect. Bunny Maloney is a comedy first and foremost, and that's completely fine, but a big aspect of the pitches, pilots, etc. is that this was a parody of action animes like Sailor Moon, and maybe 20% of the show is that, with 80% of it being just regular slice of life comedy, at least from the episodes I saw. It makes the action parts of this show feel mostly like an afterthought, like something they rushed last second to appeal to kids, making it feel very disjointed with the rest of the show. I don't dislike the scenes when they're here. I think some of them can be fun, but they feel like they were tacked on rather than being an actual part of the show. However, again, with the amazing designs done by this guy who I cannot pronounce at all, and incredible animation, these scenes still pack enough whimsy to be fun while watching, allowing me to kind of just go along for whatever happens next. As I said though, this is a comedy. The humor matters most. If it's not funny, then the show sucks. So, how is the comedy?
So then the mommy fish lays some eggs, and the daddy fish sprays them with his special daddy spray. And a few weeks later, some babies are born.
All right, here we go. This show is not a kids show. It aired on kids' blocks, but I would equate it to more something like Dan Versus, which also isn't really a kids show, but aired on The Hub. However, Bunny Maloney far and away is a lot more raunchy than that show. Whenever I see people talk about this thing, I always see them talk about how this was made for kids, and yeah, I get that argument, but it wasn't. Watching old pilots and pitches for this show, it's very obvious this show was meant to be for older audiences, but was changed to be quote-unquote more kid-friendly, just like the aforementioned regular show. And I do get why people talk about this. I don't think it should have been a kids show, but it has been almost 20 years. I think harping on this fact isn't productive and is disregarding what the show is. So I'm going for this review to throw away the idea that this is a kids show and purely judge it on whether it succeeded in being what it wanted to be. Funny. And the verdict is... it's really funny, but it did not age well at all. Okay, starting with the negatives. It's really sexist, which is funny considering season 2, if it's ever made, is gonna be like super woke and shit, cause my god is this show misogynistic. A lot of the humor boils down to my partner bad or woman bad. And it can be funny. I recognize that my brain is brain rotted, but I'm usually laughing at the audacity that they made the joke and not the joke itself. I know that this type of humor was common in the 2000s, but it feels very reliant at times on this type of humor, which is unfortunate because I think the other humor can be really funny. It's very lowbrow. I feel like I shouldn't find it as funny as I do, but I think I laughed at least a couple of times throughout each episode. The show really has a throw everything at the wall approach, even with its episode ideas. Like, this show will go as far as it wants to make you laugh, even if that means making strip club references.
Baking love cookies?
Baking love cookies? However, I think when it's more sexual humor, I think this show does a better job at it than a lot of adult comedies. Like Hell of a Boss, I don't think it's the 0 out of 10 show people call it, but its adult humor is pretty bad and consistently bad, but it's bad because it's very unsubtle and in your face about how perverse it's being, constantly screaming from the rooftops, "We're an adult show! We say fuck!" But a show like Bunny Maloney, while it's definitely adult, it still does have restrictions, being on a family channel, and so it has to work around being able to make these jokes, which leads to more creative ones. Ones that catch me off guard and leave me remembering them rather than making me switch the TV to Teletubbies to cleanse myself. And it's not like this is the only humor. Obviously, you have some of the more stereotypical kids show jokes that everyone knows, and they aren't very funny, but there's also some light slapstick, some parody humor, and most of all, there's character-driven humor too. Like some of it's obvious. Charlotte is the goat girl. She gets a lot of the more inappropriate jokes. Also, she's really hot. But the best character in fiction, Jean-Francois, my fucking non-binary goat, move over Charlotte, can't talk besides their name. So they use them for more visual comedy, bouncing off of Bunny and Candy's shenanigans nicely. Bunny and Candy have this bickering couple dynamic, yes, but there are humorous scenes with them, and they do obviously care about each other sometimes, even if Bunny is a Giga Chad woman hater like 90% of the time. Candy and Charlotte usually have a witty dialogue, same with Bunny and the raccoon. All of these characters lead to funny conversations with each other and allow for more varied humor. Though I will say, if there is a problem with this show, it's that it's built around this super fast-paced humor, blink and you miss it stuff, which I personally really like, but there are a lot of times where it just becomes really slow and drags its feet a bit. Not every episode does this, but there were episodes that felt like they were trying to kill time by having extended scenes or long pauses or just goofing around very boringly. Really though, I found myself actually really liking this show. Sure, it's absurd, aged kinda poorly, and is rough around the edges, but it's so charming. The animation is amazing, some of the jokes really can be funny, and there's always something there that keeps you hooked. Honestly, I don't really get why people complain about this show much. Yeah, it was released for the wrong demographic, but you can't really blame the creator for that. I don't think he was hoping for this to be a kid's show. Other than that though, I really enjoyed it. Bunny Maloney is a fun cartoon that's especially fun to show to friends. The reactions I've gotten are priceless, and I can imagine someone being super obsessed with this show. It's not perfect, but for what it is, I'm giving Bunny Maloney a 7 out of 10. The creator also still draws these characters from time to time, so it's not like it's forgotten. He also really talks about a season 2 a lot, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But this begs the question, what happened to this show? Why did it only get 1 season? A lot of people like to say that the raunchy nature of this show is the reason that it got canceled, that its perverse nature led to its demise, and that the controversy surrounding it led to the fall of Bunny Maloney. That's just not fucking true. Maybe for the Kabillion release or the US release of it, but that was the company not realizing that the show was that risque. As soon as they found out about it, they pulled the plug pretty quickly. That had nothing to do with any controversy. In fact, doing some research, I couldn't find any outrage at all except from people years later talking about it. No, the reason for its demise is actually quite simple. The show's producer, Moonscoop, simply went out of business. It's a boring and kind of sad answer, but that's really how a lot of these cult classic shows end. Moonscoop was producing Fantastic Four, Code Lyoko, Strawberry Shortcake, Care Bears, amongst other decently sized projects. Bunny Maloney isn't the reason Moonscoop failed, but Bunny Maloney failed because Moonscoop started producing shows no one cared about and went under, which is normal. However, I do hope we see more of this series in the future. It's obvious the creator still wants to work on it, talking about a season 2 various times on his Twitter, still posting Bunny Maloney art to this day. As someone who enjoys the show, I hope it gets the love it deserves. If you want to support the creator, it appears they have commissions open, so if you enjoy the work they do and want to see more of it, I would recommend helping them out, a little goes a long way.
But there's not really much more I can say. I implore you to watch the show. There's really some funny moments besides the few not well-aged parts. But I need to get some rest, and I need to find out who the fuck found my address.
Was it you? You can even send mail. Did you get your evil robot dog army to do it?
I know you have it. Just tell me.
Oh, who could it be? Aha! Not this time! I'll get you this time!
Man, this is getting ridiculous. You serious?